What is good, Raider Nation? It's your boy Raider Alex back with yet another video for you guys. Anybody that's new to the channel, you guys love Raider related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. That being said, let's jump right into the topic of this video. Tough loss for the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are now 2-3, falling 34-18 to the Denver Broncos. The Raiders not only are now 2-3, they're also 0-2 in the division. That is not a good look. Our next divisional opponent is going to be Kansas City. And if you can't beat them, I mean, to start off 0-3 in the division, that's a terrible situation to be put in. But the Raiders struggled tremendously in this one. And I'm not going to lie, I mean, the Denver Broncos just absolutely dominated us. They looked like the much better team yesterday. And the Raiders, I think there's a lot of red flags. There's a lot of things to be concerned about with this football team. Now, first, the biggest topic of discussion that everybody's want to talk about is the quarterback situation. And that's Gardner Minshew, whether or not it's time for Antonio Pierce and his coaching staff to pull the plug on Gardner Minshew and throw second-year quarterback Aiden O'Connell into the mix as a starting quarterback. And look, let's be honest. Gardner Minshew had a terrible game yesterday. He started off the game good, able to make some plays with his legs, able to get that touchdown pass to Brock Bowers. But really, I think Gardner Minshew costed us big time in this one. The game yesterday, it seemed like the Raiders had it under control. We had the ball at the 5-yard line, up 10-3. We were driving on offense. We got a big run from Amir Abdullah. It looked like we were able to move the football effectively. But what do we do on 1st and goal? Gardner Minshew rolls out to his left. He throws the ball way too high to Brock Bowers, and the Denver Broncos cornerback Patrick Surtain takes it to the house. And from then on, the game completely changed in my opinion. The momentum completely shifted toward the Denver Broncos, and the Raiders weren't able to get back into the football game. After that momentum shift, the Broncos just completely dominated on offense and on defense. Gardner Minshew finished the game 12 of 17 for 137 yards, 1 touchdown pass, 2 interceptions. And I think at this point in time, I would make the move to go with Aiden O'Connell as a starting quarterback. And look, I've been okay with us keeping Gardner Minshew as a starting quarterback for the last month or so. As soon as I seen he was named the starter to start the regular season, I thought it was fair to give him at least 4 weeks, 1 month of the season, essentially 1/4 of the season, to kind of evaluate how he's playing, and you go from there. I'm not a fan of switching quarterbacks every 2-3 weeks. And I think if Antonio Pierce and his coaching staff does choose to move forward with Aiden O'Connell, I would like to see him get at least 4 weeks to truly evaluate how he can perform for us. And look, hopefully he could take a real strong hold of that position, because like I said, I don't want any type of back and forth at the starting quarterback position. And I think with Gardner Minshew is the fact that we've just seen a lot more bad play than we've seen good play. We've all known that he's been sort of an inconsistent quarterback throughout his career. At times he can really be on fire and look really good out there, make some big explosive plays. But then at times he makes really boneheaded decisions like we saw against the Denver Broncos. But really throughout 5 games, we've seen more moments of him playing bad football than we've seen him playing good. And he's just way too erratic of a quarterback right now. It's really just been a roller coaster ride with him as a starting quarterback thus far. And I think Aiden O'Connell will give you more consistency, but I will say, I feel like a lot of people that have been calling for Aiden O'Connell to be the starter, I feel like they're expecting a lot out of him. I feel like they're expecting that this offense is going to look a lot different with him under center, and that he could, potentially save the Raiders season. Me personally, I'm not as optimistic as a lot of people in that sense. I still think there's a lot of major flaws with this team, and that's going to be manifested with Minshew or with Aiden O'Connell at the quarterback spot. I really don't think either one of them are great quarterbacks. Really, the biggest issue I still think stems from the offensive line. They looked a lot better last week, but then again, that win versus the Cleveland Browns, it doesn't look like a good win at all now. The Cleveland Browns are 1-4. They look like a disaster of a football team, and the Raiders just barely scraped the win in that one, so it's not a good look. And what continued to be an issue for the Raiders is running the ball effectively. If we take out that one big run from Amir Abdullah, the Raiders were not really able to get anything going on the ground game. I thought it was the right decision to move forward with Madison as a starting running back, But the issues running the football continued for the Raiders. Alexander Madison ran for 15 carries for 38 yards. That's about 2.5 yards per carry. That's not good at all either. The Raiders in total were only able to rush for 115 yards, and 22 of those came from Gardner Minshew. So one thing to take into consideration is when Aiden O'Connell gets out there, we're not going to get 20, 30 yards rushing like we usually did with Gardner Minshew. So theoretically, it seems like the run game could be worse under Aiden O'Connell, but I still think that's a huge issue for this Raiders team. Now, I will say the Denver Broncos defense has always been a really good unit. They're an elite defense right now. They're a hard team to run the football on. So maybe this was just a bad matchup for the Raiders. But still, just judging on what we've been seeing consistently these last 5 weeks, the Raiders still struggle as an offensive line unit. And unfortunately for Aiden O'Connell too, his best weapon in Davante Adams, I think we've seen his last snaps in the silver and black. So this offense in general, I don't think it's going to get any better without Davante Adams. Having a wide receiver like that was a nice safety blanket for Aiden O'Connell. I think O'Connell could have success in the National Football League, but he's going to have a solid run game, a solid offensive line, and some nice weapons. And right now, I mean, we really don't have that. The offensive line is very shaky. We're gonna have to adjust to life without Davante Adams. And ultimately, you know, top to bottom, this team, like I said, there's a lot of holes. There's a lot of red flags with this team. Offensive line is an issue. We can't run the ball effectively. The defensive side of the football, it is the strength of this team, but I thought this defense was going to be better than it currently is. We still struggle to stop the run, and that's a huge concern for me moving forward. Currently, some rankings for the defense, it does not look good for us. When it comes to turnovers per game, the Raiders are tied for dead last in this statistic. When it comes to points per game allowed, 28th in the league. Passer rating allowed, 24th in the NFL. And yards per carry, 27th. So you've seen a lot of these key categories, the Raiders are a bottom 5 unit. And that's a huge concern. I thought if this team was going to have success, if they're going to find a way to make the playoffs, this defense was going to have to be, you know, for sure a top 10, potentially like a top 5 unit, a really good elite defense. And really that just hasn't been there for the Raiders. Now, injuries have been a big issue. Malcolm Kuntz isn't here for the season, and the Raiders haven't found a good answer to replace him. Christian Wilkins left the game yesterday with a foot injury. We'll have to see how his injury ends up shaking up. And we finally had a game with Max Crosby not playing out there. But the biggest issue on this defense too is we can't stop the run effectively at all. We gave up over 100 yards on the ground once again. Denver Broncos running back Javonte Williams averaged nearly 5 yards per carry. And this is a big issue. Fundamentally, this team is still not sound at all. And ultimately, there's just a lot of things that do not look right for me from this team. And, taking away all the statistics, all the rankings, things of that nature, just judging, just watching this football team, going based off the eye test, this team does not look like a good football team to me. We do have some talent, so that I think that's going to keep us in a lot of football games, and we will win some. But the way this team is looking, this most certainly does not look like a playoff team. Now, the only good thing for the Raiders is the AFC has kind of been a dogfight thus far. The Raiders are still definitely in contention. I mean, the season is not over in that stance. If they can start to pick things up, if we can turn things around, if we can figure out a way to be more effective in the trenches, then the Raiders have a shot. But like I said, there's a lot of work for the Raiders moving forward this season. And just basing off of that eye test, they don't look like a great football team. I still feel like we lack a true identity on the offensive side of the football. Also, too, this team does not look like a well-coached football team. I mean, Luke Getsy, sometimes he's got some really head-scratching play calls. There's an instance where it was 3rd and 5, and instead he decides to run it up the gut. Even though we all know this team, you can probably count with one hand the amount of times we've been able to run for over 5 yards in one play. And we were backed up too. It's not like we were in 4-down territory and you run that because you're going to go for it on 4th down. So that was a super head-scratching play call. Yesterday too, we had some dumb mistakes as well. Janarius Robinson had a dumb penalty before the end of the half. that gave the Denver Broncos 3 points on the board. So there's a lot of things to be concerned about with this football team. Ultimately, I do think Aiden O'Connell should get the start next week. He should get the opportunity. Like I said, I would like to see him at least 4 weeks, see what he's truly made of, and go from there. But the way this team is looking, if we don't fix some key issues, I feel like Aiden O'Connell will struggle in this offense, just like Gardner Minshew was. But Raider Nation, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about the quarterback situation. Should we move forward with Aiden O'Connell? And do you think he'll be a big upgrade over Gardner Minshew? Let me know in the comment section down below. But with that being said, Raider Nation, that's all for you guys in today's video. Anybody that's new to the channel, you guys love Raider related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. That being said, I will see you guys in the next one.